Edge of Sports on the PPI Network.
Dave Zirin returns on Edge of Sports Radio, where sports and politics collide.
You better watch who you're talking about, running your mouth like you
Boom, we're back here on Edge of Sports Radio. If you hear Nelly, it means one thing and one thing only. We are still talking about Nellyville. We're talking about St. Louis. We're talking about the World Series. And who better to talk about baseball with than a former college basketball All-American? That might sound strange to you, but look, you get these baseball people on, they're talking VORP, they're talking advanced stats and sabermetrics, and by the time the discussion's over, I got their pocket protector in one hand and they're heading the toilet for a swirly. But bullying is wrong, kids. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about baseball, because last night's game was unreal. So we have in the hot seat Mr. Laron Prophet. Laron, how you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on.
First question for you.
Yeah.
The World Series. I mean, I got to ask you this because I asked this to Jarvis Green.
Right.
And Jarvis was like, World Series? What?
World Series of Poker?
Yeah. So that was real. So does it do it for you, the World Series? Did you watch Game 6? What did you think of Game 6? Your impressions? Are you a baseball guy?
I love baseball in the playoffs. Cannot watch a game during the regular season.
Me too.
But during the playoffs, because there's so much strategy involved, the managers are, you have to think about rotations and who's going to pitch if we have a Game 5, if we have a Game 6.
Mm-hmm.
I just love baseball in the playoffs, man. I've always been a fan. I remember going back to when Kirby Puckett, they showed that a lot last night. I remember when Sid, against the Pirates, Sid Bream coming around third with the Atlanta Braves. So I love it this time of year.
Do you see yourself as being kind of isolated amongst your friends? Because I know you're also friends with a lot of NBA guys, in terms of your absolute passion for baseball come playoff time?
I think to a degree. I think the one thing all of us have in common is as the games get more and more intense and you have like Game 7s or closeout games, I think everybody starts to pay attention. I even what I notice is, as the series start to get later in the series, you start to hear people talking a little bit more about it. And I think that is kind of just being an athlete and having respect for great players, for great moments, and I think that's something we all can identify with.
Wow, we just made some news here on Edge of Sports Radio. You just called baseball players athletes.
Yeah.
So that's a wonderful...
Except John Crook, but I mean, other than that.
You're with it. So, impressions of the game last night. Obviously, the Rangers came within one strike of their first ever World Championship. We were talking in the first segment about how absolutely devastating that must have been. And as an athlete, let me ask you this. What's the potential for carryover for Game 7?
Well, I just think, you felt for the Rangers because they were so close to winning that championship. And it just seemed like every time St. Louis was on their deathbed, they just would find a way. And it just, it was unfortunate for Texas, but it was great for the fans of St. Louis. And there is a potential that this could carry over because there's no day off in between. St. Louis has to feel great to still be playing. In Texas, you have to kind of be sitting in the dugout wondering, how do we end up playing another day?
Is there such a thing as momentum in sports when you get to this high skill level? I certainly see it at a younger level where kids can be very emotional and have huge ups and huge downs. But when you get to this high professional level, does momentum exist? I
think it does. I think more so in this case because, like I said, there's no off day. There's no day to kind of let it sink in. There's no day to kind of like, all right, get that out of your system. That was then. It's like we got to get right back to the ballpark. And if you're Texas, there's no way you can't be going to the ballpark thinking, man, we should have closed this out. So there is potential for that. And I think with St. Louis, the one thing that they're pointing to is we got our ace on the mound. We won a game last night we shouldn't have won, and now we come back with our ace, even though on 3 days rest, we do have our best pitcher.
Now you're revisiting a conversation I had with Jeremiah, and I want to get that to you because that speaks to predicting Game 7. But first, I got sort of a beef with you here, a legit, not sort of. Let me speak in a much more declarative way.
Woo!
Beef. I got a beef with you, to use my early 90s slang, right? Is that okay, Money?
Yeah,
if I could use this?
Word up.
Okay, Money. Listen, just chill, Money.
It must be the shoes.
This is the question I have for you. How can you possibly blame the right fielder for the Texas Rangers for not catching that triple, that freeze hit in the ninth inning? How can you blame him?
It's not that I blame him for not
catching.
Yeah, Cruz, who also is tied the record with 8 home runs for the postseason, which we have to give him credit for. I think he's tied with Beltran and Barry Bonds.
So this isn't a loafer
here. Put an asterisk
here.
next to both of those. But I think it's
next
not
to
that
Beltran,
he
you put an asterisk.
what did he do when he got to New York?
He got hurt.
Yeah, as an A-Rod.
Oh,
but
so every time you get hurt, you
no, it's just when I look back to his statistics during that postseason, and I look at his run with the Mets, and I look at how they got a little stricter with steroids.
Look, just because he has to stamp his foot 3 times to count doesn't mean he takes steroids.
But anyway, back to Cruz. I don't have a problem with him not catching the ball. My immediate thought when I watched the play was it kind of looked like a wide receiver going across the middle who didn't stretch all the way out to catch it.
But why don't wide receivers stretch? They don't stretch because they think they're going to get clobbered by Laron Landry or whoever else is floating out there. You don't really think Cruz was scared of the wall at that point?
I don't know if he was scared of it, if he was kind of maybe over-analyzing how close or far he was from it, or if he was maybe trying to, figure out where exactly he was in relation to the ball. But in that situation, it's all out. I don't care what I have to do. I got to make my best. I'm going to tell you a story. Michael Irvin is one of my favorite football players. And he had a story when they did the top 100 on the NFL.
Well, so you have a story that's Michael Irvin's story.
Yeah, it's Michael Irvin's story. Clear. But I just want to, it kind of relates to what I'm saying. And they were saying how tough a receiver Michael Irvin was. Mm-hmm. How Michael Irvin was one of the toughest receivers. And Michael Irvin said, you know what, people say I was tough. But every time I lined up, and it was 3rd and 7, and I knew I was going across that middle to catch the slant route, and I knew that the middle linebacker or the safety was going to knock my head off, he said I would line up and say, hey, Mike, it's either catch this ball or go back to the projects.
Oh, my God. That's a little dramatic, isn't it?
But that just shows you the mentality. There is no in-between. I'm going to get hit. The safety's going to murder me.
You're saying Cruz should have said, I better catch this ball or I'm back to Dominica.
No,
that's what you're saying.
What I'm saying is Cruz has got to say, whatever it takes, I got to give my best effort to catch this ball.
You know what you're giving an example of? You're giving a great example about why I probably should have talked to a baseball person instead of you. Now, let me
I'm just saying,
you why.
I think everybody who watched that game last night would say they didn't really see a guy who sold out to make that catch.
The difference between baseball and football. Football, you take something, you go, I'm going to get this ball or I'm going back to the projects. And you psych yourself up.
Right.
And then you go out there and you do your thing.
Right.
You do that in baseball, you're going 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, and then you run into the wall just like Laron wants.
Or
you drop it.
Or Jeremiah.
You break a bone.
Or Jeremiah, you end up being Kirby Puckett.
Oh.
And you're being remembered as one of the greatest catches in World Series history because you did scale the wall and you saved the home run and then you went up and hit a home run to win the game. Because that's the difference between guys who win.
Why are you addressing Jeremiah?
Because you're not understanding what we're saying here.
He can't argue with you.
The difference between what Nelson Cruz did and what Kirby Puckett did is Kirby Puckett said, I gotta make this play.
I disagree. As someone who played baseball at a very high level, high school, I think hey, the Fighting Quakers of Friends were no joke. Friends Seminary, the Fighting Quakers.
Never heard of them, but anyway.
Oh, I never heard of them. I'm shocked. Look, it's like there is no difference between Cruz and Puckett, except Cruz timed it incorrectly and Puckett timed it correctly.
No, it's not about time. No, Kirby Puckett scaled the wall. Nelson Cruz.
You keep knocking down the same picture. Who's it up? Who's it up?
It's Jamie Foxx and Common would say, I used to love her. I used to love Nelson Cruz until he refused to lay out for that. It's not a matter of
Kirby. Common ever do to you? Yeah. You're like beating up this picture of Common.
I just think watching that game last night, and no one will ever be able to say definitively, except for Nelson Cruz, I didn't see a guy who laid it all out to make that catch. And it ended up costing them Game 6 of the World Series.
Absolutely. The fact that he didn't catch it, I just disagree with you that it's the kind of psycho mentality thing. Like, I played basketball, and I used to stand in front of the mirror, I'm not joking around, and hit myself in the head before going out on the court.
Robert De Niro in Taxi here?
I did Taxi Driver. I think you're thinking of Danny DeVito.
Hey, Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver, man.
No, it was like that. I'd be looking in the mirror like, are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? Because I knew the coach didn't want me to shoot. I wasn't Laron Prophet, one of the glamour guys on the wing.
Hey.
I was one of the guys doing the dirty work.
You should have been stabbing yourself going, give me that water. Get that water. No, yeah. but this is, it's not about psycho. It's about when people remember Derek Jeter, what do they remember?
The flip to home against
they remember
the Oakland A's.
When you make the play, you get remembered for. Bill Buckner's not, he's remembered for what? He let a ground ball go through his legs. It's either you make the play and you become a legend, or you don't make the play and you suffer the consequence. And Nelson Cruz, He didn't make the play. And in those moments, that's what happens. That's
you
what
put it in
remember.
a Buckner category, though? You can't put it in a Buckner.
But listen, how many years has it been since Texas won a World Series?
They've never won a World Series.
And that's what I'm going to tell you. And they may never because of that play. And he has to live with it.
Well, that's definitely
People
true.
will remember that play before they remember the fact that he had 8 home runs in the World Series.
That's definitely true, too. I just don't think – and, I have to be honest with the radio audience. It's not like I've been trolling the media in Texas, partly because I can't deal with the front page pictures like, we're going to kill him. Time for some executing.
Said we need to execute that boy.
Yeah, and then we're going to secede. Yeah.
And
with
then
all the executing we can do.
And we're going to do it on 888 to be one better than Herman Cain.
Herman Cain. That 999.
What's that 999 mess?
Yeah, I'm going to one-up you.
The truth is, Governor Romney, you don't have a record on immigration. You have employed illegals all your life.
They're illegals. Uh-huh.
No, I just think it comes down to you either make the play and you become a legend. One thing. But
it's not a Buckner-esque
It's not
situation.
Buckner-esque, but listen, the Patriots were 16-0. They were on their way to a perfect season, and everyone talks about David Tyree's catch. But people who know football remember that Asante Samuels dropped an interception that was right in his hands. They were one interception. How many interceptions does Asante have? A lot. He missed one catch, and there goes your perfect season. And now people say, dang, but the Patriots almost went undefeated.
No one thinks of Asante as a GOAT in that game, though.
No, they don't. But you don't think the Patriot players, you don't think the fans in Boston have some point said, man, only if Asante would have made that catch?
I'm saying that you don't always – maybe this is your, Manichean athletic mentality.
Yes. I don't even know what that means, but I'm going to agree with you.
But
unless it means secede from the union.
You don't always have to have a loser for someone to be a winner. You see what I'm saying? It's like you don't need a GOAT. Maybe that ball was just hit too well. That was a screamer, that triple.
Well, this is where we're going to have to agree because, in one aspect, you're right. There are some games where it's just somebody won. There's situations where last year I think Dallas just beat Miami, but the GOAT was LeBron James.
That's true.
Nelson Cruz, that was a 2-run lead, bottom of the 9th inning, with your closer on the line, a catchable ball. He doesn't make the play.
When you get rid of all the smoke, though, and all your fancy words,
right? Manichean.
Yes, all that
secession.
All that. Once you get away from the whole College Park intellectual, blah
which is
blah
deep,
blah,
which runs deep. It runs deep.
You're running this. At the end of the day, you are saying that Cruz had the yips, the same way LeBron froze, and the same way other.
No, I don't want to put him in that category. I just think when he looks back on that film, I think when he watches that film, if he ever watches it, he'll always wonder if he could have done a little bit more to catch that ball.
Unless they win Game 7. And then it becomes a
mute
question. And that's why we should spin it forward right now. I want to ask you this question. Yeah. I'll just be very, very frank with you, and I'm not even going to let you have to sort of wonder, because I'm sure it would plague your mind as we have this discussion. But Jeremiah and I both picked the Texas Rangers in Game 7, and I'm just curious as to your thoughts.
I mean, I don't think it's any secret. I'm going for Texas. I want Texas to win. I'm a big fan of Josh Hamilton. I just think his story is unbelievable. And I think it would be so ironic that Texas won the year after Cliff Lee left.
It would also be incredibly ironic, Josh Hamilton with his substance abuse issues and
Ron
Washington with his love of the nose candy.
And the fact that Adrian Beltre was ran out of Boston because he wasn't productive. But it's hard to go against St. Louis. They've just been so resilient. They got Chris Carpenter on the mound.
On 3 days rest, though.
3 days rest, man.
But
I saw Josh Beckett do it for the Marlins, man, against the Yankees. And probably what I can say is one of the most impressive performances I've ever seen a pitcher do.
Definitely.
Him and Jack Morris are probably right at the top of my list off the top of my head.
I'd rather have Josh Beckett playing quarterback for the Redskins than John Beck.
But I'm gonna go with Texas. I'm gonna go with my heart.
Really?
I'm gonna go with Texas to win this game. I think
we agree.
I think Nelson Cruz redeems himself tonight, and I think the Texas Rangers win their first World Series, and Nolan Ryan, the Ryan Express, gets to come on the field and accept the trophy.
And I keep going back to this thing that Tony La Russa said, where he said if you had to have two managers and one was a master strategist and the other ran a team that would go through a wall for him, pick the team that would go through a wall for their manager. and he was complimenting Ron Washington and also giving him a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, I was about to say that was
Ron
kind of a
Washington
backhanded compliment.
Doesn't really
Has
really
not
a
a master strategist.
But you know what?
It depends on which team is using Mark McGuire steroids though to run through that wall.
Snap. Snap. Oh, he said it. He said it. Man, you're on point today. My goodness. You got your stilettos out.
Backhanded compliment?
Yeah.
That's not even a compliment. That's a backhand.
Although
that's beef.
I want to, just for the record, remind everybody in Radioland that before you did say, hey, you're like Robert De Niro in Taxi.
Yeah,
Taxi with Tony Danza.
I did. I meant Taxi Driver.
Taxi
my bad,
Driver.
man.
Hey.
One of my favorite actors of all time, Robert De Niro. I'm sorry, Robert, man. My fault.
No, he's a listener of the show, so I'm glad you gave that shout out.
I'm a huge fan.
I'm a huge fan as well. First, best Robert De Niro movie ever. What do you go with?
Man, that's tough. It's too many to name. I'm going to say Godfather 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what? If you ask me right now what it would be, I might even say Heat.
Oh, that's enough.
Heat.
I was watching The Bronx Tale on the flight the other day.
Bronx Tale's amazing.
That's amazing, man.
It's a great movie.
I mean, he has so many to choose from. I'd
Meet
say
the
Godfather
Fockers.
2 because he dominated.
Meet the Fockers. You
Meet
need
the
to
Fockers.
leave. You need
I
to
said,
leave.
yeah, right. Meet the parents.
Get out.
I say
Meet the parents.
Godfather 2 because he dominated the Godfather 2, barely speaking.
Yeah.
It was like incredible.
Which is
it was
not
like Tom
different-
Hanks in Castaway. It was just he barely spoke, but his presence on the screen
Was amazing.
Was amazing.
And that's actually not that different from Heat because he's very taciturn in Heat.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of speaking.
But the scene with him and Pacino at the table.
She's got a big ass.
No. There's a flip side to that.
Your head is all up in it.
There's a flip side to that. Court.
Yeah, there's a flip side. Oh, that scene
That
gave me
scene,
chills.
yeah.
Man.
If I got to take you down,
Yeah,
it's
right.
ridiculous.
Because I would not
There's a flip
hesitate,
side.
not for 1 minute, not
Not
for
for
1 minute,
one
because
minute.
nothing or nobody will get in my way.
Wow. All right. I think we all agree it's Heat.
Yeah.
Hey. But yeah.
This guy, Tony LaRusse over here.
Over here. But one thing we all
Is
agree
your
on
bullpen mic working?
is the yeah. What?
Ooh, why is this guy coming to the mound? I didn't call for him, did I?
What time is it, baby? That was a Tony La Russa quote.
We know Pat Summitt is suffering from dementia.